Hi everyone, I'm going to share with you some of my takeaways from reading the Marzano chapter this week on test design. The first thing I just wanted to share as I was reading it, a lot of the headings were about how certain tests were obtrusive assessments, and that I was really taken aback by that because I don't see a lot of them as obtrusive assessments. I guess they can be. But I did some thinking and some reflecting about that. And I was really led to the teacher standard and the NCDPI, the standards or the program standards. And I thought a lot about standard 2, the respectful learning environment. And I just really thought about creating that environment for students of respectful, supportive environment. And that's one thing I always try to do in my classroom is to make it feel comfortable and safe for students, inviting and supportive, and just really build that classroom community. So some of the assessments that I will talk about today, I don't feel are intrusive because I feel like kids feel that their classroom is a safe zone. So I just want to kind of throw that out at you all. I don't know if you thought the same as me and didn't see them as intrusive. So the first thing that I wanted to point out to you from the Marzano text was a quote on page 64. It's the short constructed response items require students to construct a corrected answer as opposed to recognizing an answer, which leads to often a more rigorous answer for them. They have to figure out what the correct answer is. And I thought about this and connecting that to the standards-based grading, because when we're standard-based grading, we can score them on a 0 up to 4. And when they are answering written response, we can really determine how well do they understand that standard. Are they able to meet the standard, or are they able to go over and beyond the standard? And we can really tell with how much explanation they're giving us, how are they really able to understand, let's say in reading, the character's thoughts and feelings. Are they just repeating what the text said, or are they going a step forward, above that and relating to the character, or applying it further, or connecting to a character that they've read in past. Going forward, I thought about oral response and obtrusive assessments, and this is one too I don't think is obtrusive, because I guess I get my kids talking early on, so they're used to Miss Adams asking them questions and talking back and having those conversations. But Marzano states that oral responses are used to provide instructional feedback as opposed to formative scores. I agree with that. I think when we have conversations with kids and we're discussing, we can have those conversations and show them what they did well, but also show them where their errors are. If they're explaining a math problem, we're able to hear exactly at what point they're struggling, and correct them and guide them into understanding where they need to begin working and going back to the strategy and figuring out what they need to work on. And that kind of leads me into that section. It starts talking about the true-false questions and the multiple choice questions, and it's describing how it goes on in the second paragraph. And Marzano describes, it says, the teacher would ask the student to explain why he or she thinks the answer is correct. I thought about standard 3, content and a curriculum expertise, and about the 21st century learning there. And I really thought about the collaboration that can happen there and the critical thinking when the teacher is asking students to explain and letting them really talk about, if it is true, why is it true? Have them prove that. Why is that math problem true? Or why is that character feeling unsure of themselves or sad? What does, go back to reference the text, what does the text says that proves that that answer is true? And really having them discuss that with their partner and prove that based on what the text says. Down in formal oral reports, Marzano says that they can be likened to essays, and that students develop multiple drafts before the final product is presented. Here, this was a little different for me. I do oral reports, but I don't always have them do a formal oral report. I've changed it up a little bit, and I've gone the route of a TED Talk, which is like doing the technology, entertainment, and design. Tried that for the first time this year with a pull-out fifth grade group that I had. And so I kind of see that essays versus TED Talk. I feel like that is modeling that new technology that the kids like to do. They were able to do a Google Slides. They still gathered their information. They still researched it. There still was a writing piece where they had to write, in essay form using the notes and the cited research that they had to incorporate in there. And that kind of goes back to the standard 4. Teacher leaders need to incorporate technology integration that supports student learning, but just more on their level and what they're interested in and versus the traditional essay. The 2 students that I did really enjoyed that. One of them did it on artificial intelligence. He presented it to the class once we pushed back in. So I kind of felt like that was a little more in where they are today versus just a normal essay. On page 71, Marzano goes on to talk about probing discussions. He says, probing discussions are one of the most powerful forms of oral assessment. He describes it as more of a one-on-one situation. I have done some one-on-one conversations, and I find extreme value in that. Unfortunately, time constraints makes that difficult. I've done it more so in a small group, guided reading group or strategy group. I still find it very beneficial because you're able to really get to the get to the heart of the matter and really ask those higher level thinking skills and really try to get to what the kid is understanding in the with the text and interact with the text. And really, I use a lot of standards there and mark the standards with the kids through conversation and observation to really use that documentation for parent conferences to say, yes, your kid is able to read, your kid is able to comprehend, but they're really struggling with making inferences. And through that probing discussion there, I can have that documentation to share based on what the standards are. Going forward in the demonstration of obtrusive assessments, here it was talking about on page 72, Marzano states, in a situation where the skill, strategy, or process is mostly mental, the teacher might have to ask students to explain what they're thinking or think aloud. I love to use think alouds. I try to use that as a modeling opportunity. I've used it with writing. When we're writing a narrative or we're writing a poem, let the kids hear my thinking process and hope that it will help them. I use it a lot to model thinking math, to do my think aloud through math talk. Get the kids to go up, explain their answer. This allows me to do more of an informal assessment, hear their thinking process, probing them when they're explaining their strategy. They find it works with this problem. Ask them that probing question of, do you think your strategy will work using another problem? Will this strategy work in all problems? Can you figure out a different strategy that might work with this same problem? A different strategy in this situation. When I was thinking about this modeling piece that goes along with this think aloud, I'm venturing into new waters this coming up school year as a mentor. And so I was thinking about how the modeling is so important with the teacher that I'll be mentoring. She'll be a second-year teacher, and really having those crucial conversations with her and helping her to find those areas in her kindergarten classroom of where she can model for her kindergarten students. And really going back to the program standard 1 about teacher leadership and working with her. And the teacher leadership states that teacher leaders should facilitate mentoring and coaching with novice teachers. So taking that into her classroom there. And then I have one more point that I wanted to kind of share with you guys when I was thinking about it. It was the student-generated assessments. Marzano states that this perhaps is the most powerful and underutilized type of assessment in student-generated assessment. I would agree, because this is the one that, although it seems like I don't use a lot of formal paper pencil assessments, I think this is the one that I need to work on the most. I think it would allow for, goes back to the respectful learning environments, which would, the program standard 2 states that implement in curriculum and instruction that is responsive to learner differences, where we can infuse choice into the way students can demonstrate their learning, and how they want to show us what they know and what they understand. This is one thing that I need to work on. Where we allow, as Marzano states, that we can allow that students propose tasks that will demonstrate their knowledge of a specific topic. That's one I look forward to working on in the upcoming school year. I've learned a lot. I am interested in learning what you all have to say. It's been very eye-opening that it seems like I do a lot of assessing through observation, communication, some technology thrown in there, not as much paper pencil, but I think that's okay. I think we can see what kids know without just the paper pencil that we were brought up with. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I look forward to hearing yours. Thank you.